When I was a kid in the early to mid 2000s, kids would gravitate towards things that were held in high regard compared to everyday life. And once we showed interest in one of these things, we would be categorized. We could be the kid who likes space and wants to be an astronaut, or the one kid who likes trains and imagines themselves being a train conductor. Another set of categories that could be listed would be those interested in nature, activities like fishing and hiking. It was usually something that we could find picture books for and see new stuff to fill our curious minds. And yeah, it was very likely that most people had multiple interests as a kid, and even more than I just listed. I honestly don't know if the categories are the same nowadays, but topics like these were normal around the times I grew up, and I had a very prominent interest that I was known for in my family, and that interest was dinosaurs. That's right, I was the kid who would ask people what their favorite dinosaur was and judge them based off their answer. When it came to toys, I remember having a small set of plastic miniatures and a plastic hill, and I would make little scenes with these toys. I remember even drawing a river on a piece of paper to flesh out the world and make the scene more interesting. Another set of toys I had was miniature Jeeps branded with Jurassic Park stickers, and my favorite one being the one that had a pull string at the front, and the Jeep would get pulled along it. The Jeeps would also fit in these plastic tracks that you could twist and manipulate, and I had one connector that had the Jurassic Park gate on it. I unfortunately do not have most of these toys anymore, so I hope to somewhat immortalize their memory in this video. I used to have books filled with information about dinosaurs in it for the research in my quote-unquote paleontology career that I was definitely gonna fulfill when I grew up. Only books with lots of pictures of dinosaurs though, and the pictures were the only things I would focus on. One of the books was set up as a timeline showing the earliest fossils and what they might have looked like, and progressed page by page further into the future with more well-known dinosaurs near the end, and I would flip through the book for hours. I remember I asked for a dictionary one time because it had a T-Rex on the front. And is there any question as to where this interest may have started? I don't actually remember, but it's got to be the Jurassic Park franchise, right? When I was around the 2nd grade, my mom would drop me off at my relative's place before going to work, and I would always bring my DVD of Jurassic Park and asked if I could watch it before they took me to school. I would always be able to get to the end of the movie before I had to go to school, but other times they would take me to school before the raptors showed up in the end. Jurassic Park was one of those movies that could play as a record in my head. Just a few seconds of any sound and I would know exactly where in the movie it was. My favorite scenes were the ones with the velociraptors. I thought they were the coolest animals to ever exist, and I believe that the T-Rex was a good guy because he saved the humans at the end. Okay, side note here, there's a scene in the first movie where they're in the computer room and they got the power back on, and while Dr. Grant was on the phone, he has to drop what he was doing to shoot the raptors. I always thought that the old man was shouting, "Don't shoot," which always confused me while watching it. What did you guys think he was saying in that scene? Because if he was screaming at them not to shoot the dinosaurs, then it would be very out of character for him to yell that out. Okay, back to the video. When it came to the other Jurassic Park movies, I liked the second one. It had way more dinosaurs in it, and it had more action than the first movie. It also has the best velociraptor scene in the whole franchise. You know which one I'm talking about. But I didn't like watching it that often because for me personally, I always felt bad for the guy who got ripped in half by the 2 T-Rexes. And the big thing that made me not want to watch the movie again was the dog getting eaten by the T-Rex when he gets to San Francisco. Or she. I think it was a mom. The third movie I was more willing to watch because it had the Spinosaurus and the flying dinosaurs, and because my favorite character in the movies was Dr. Grant. And his character exposed me to the line of work known as paleontology, where you could dig up bones and possibly discover and even name new species. The movie's influence made me want to become a paleontologist when I grew up, and I would take my dad's tools needed for excavation, like a hammer and chisels, and I would even now and then dig in the dry patches of dirt to try to find dinosaur bones. I never found anything. One time I carved out the silhouette of dinosaur bones and I tried to carefully dig those out, but it didn't come out correctly and it crumbled in my hands. And obviously, my paleontology plan fell through at some point. One thing that I miss about the DVD era of media is that some DVDs would have a lot more options than just watching the movie. For example, on Jurassic Park 3, they had a behind the scenes segment. They showed all the animatronics and the process of them being made. And I think I watched that just as often as the movie itself. I wonder if something in the modern era would get me this excited about animatronics. I know for a fact that these segments were what shifted my focus internally from dinosaurs to the filmmaking process and the actual creation of these monsters and bringing them to life. Another DVD option thing I remember is on one of the Land Before Time movies, the one with the green sleepwalking flying dinosaur. There was a mini game in the options. You would have to pick a path for the sleepwalker to navigate that wouldn't get him killed. And it was like the coolest discovery I made on any DVD. I'm gonna miss physical media, man. I would watch anything with a dinosaur on it. I remember a rental movie I saw thinking it was a new Jurassic Park movie, only to watch people die lost on an island in a found footage style movie. And I think it traumatized me a little. 6 out of 10 would watch again. I would also use the family computer to go on YouTube and watch a playlist labeled T-Rex or something like that. And it would cycle through a 3D animated video of a baby T-Rex in 3D named Rexy, a toy T-Rex singing a song that I can't remember, and I cannot find anymore because my feed will only recommend modern brain rot YouTube kids, a clip from a documentary about raptors hunting a triceratops, I think, and so on. One video that I would find myself watching that wasn't on the playlist every now and then was one of a guy discussing dinosaur sightings. It was during that ghost caught on tape era of my internet journey, and this video was like an hour long, which was pretty long for videos back then. He would go on to mention things like the Thunderbird, I think, the Congo rainforest sightings, and slowly start transitioning to medieval sightings and art depicting dragons that were actually late surviving dinosaurs. He would then talk about the extinction events and how these sightings would be possible. And bada boom, bada bang, why is there a Bible on my screen? I understand now that I stumbled upon a creationist video, and I gotta hand it to young me. For as gullible as I was as a child, I'm surprised that I did not fall for that. Probably because I was seeing multiple other sources going against it and backing each other up, that I chose to believe the other theories instead. And I would forget about that last half of the video every time I watched it until I reached the end. And I think I ended up rewatching it like 5 times over the span of a year, each time being surprised that I somehow ended up in a video that talked about the Bible. Speaking about Christian things and dinosaurs, I have fragmented memories of a trip my family took to Utah. We were visiting family and they took us to a dinosaur theme park that had an indoor set that led out to a place filled with dinosaur statues. As a kid, it felt magical, getting to walk around and see jungles and, again, more dinosaurs. But the only 2 things I still really remember from that trip is walking past an exhibit that was closed, and when I looked in, there was a TV that was playing an informative cartoon that showed a guy taking off his space helmet and his face turning red, before my family moved on to a different part of the park. At the park, they bought me a toy snake made out of wood that made a satisfying sound when twisted, and would pinch me every now and then too. I apparently liked the park so much that when it was time to go, I said I was gonna stay, and got mad that we were leaving. And they snapped this photo of me with the toy snake. There are other dinosaur-related stories that I haven't mentioned, but they were more recent, and I wouldn't count them as childhood memories. And if this video does well, I might make another video. I've had this channel for 8 years. And even though I don't have what's considered a successful YouTube channel, I'll still be making videos whenever I can, just like I have been for the last 8 years. If you made it this far, consider leaving a comment about your experiences this video may have reminded you of, and subscribe if you're feeling generous.